Reality does not begin where most believe it does. It does not originate in matter, in circumstance, or in the visible world. It begins in the orientation of awareness, in what the mind repeatedly holds, contemplates, and consecrates through sustained attention. This is not metaphor. This is structure. What you behold consistently, you become aligned with. What you contemplate deeply, you magnetize within. And what becomes magnetized within eventually takes form without. Most live their entire lives unaware of this principle. They navigate existence believing themselves to be passive recipients of circumstance, moved by forces beyond their control. They look outward for the source of their experience, never recognizing that the outer world is not the cause, it is the effect. The true cause lies hidden in the inner orientation, in the silent but ceaseless activity of attention. The ancients understood what modernity has forgotten, that consciousness is not a product of reality, but its architect. The Hermetic axiom states clearly, the all is mind. Not the mind influences reality, but that reality itself is mental in substance. What appears solid, fixed, and external is the crystallization of what was first held in contemplation. Yet this knowledge has been obscured. Attention has become fragmented, scattered across 1,000 distractions. The mind no longer contemplates, it reacts. It does not hold, it grasps and releases. And in this constant flux, most people unknowingly consecrate the very patterns they wish to escape. Fear, resentment, limitation. These become objects of devotion through repeated attention. And what is devoted to becomes internal law. And internal law, given time, becomes lived form. To understand how consciousness creates reality, we must trace the path from inner orientation to outer manifestation. There are 4 fundamental stages in this process, each building upon the last. The first principle is this: attention is not neutral. It is an act of consecration. To give your attention to something is to declare it sacred, to grant it authority within your inner world. This is true whether the object of attention is desired or feared, loved or resented. The quality of emotion matters less than the constancy of focus. Consider the nature of devotion. A devotee does not worship once and forget. Devotion is sustained, repetitive, unwavering. It is the return of the mind, again and again, to a single object. And through this repetition, something shifts within the devotee. They begin to embody the qualities of what they worship. Their thoughts, their words, their movements, all begin to reflect the nature of their object of devotion. This same principle governs all attention. Whatever you consistently behold, you begin to align with. If you contemplate possibility, you align with expansion. If you contemplate limitation, you align with contraction. The mind does not differentiate between what you love and what you fear. It only recognizes constancy. And constancy creates alignment. Most remain unconscious of this process. They believe their repeated thoughts are insignificant, mere mental noise. But in the architecture of reality, repetition is the builder's hand. What is held once passes through awareness like water. What is held repeatedly begins to take shape, to gather density, to become structure. The second principle reveals how sustained attention transforms into something more tangible: inner magnetism. When a thought is held long enough, it ceases to be mere thought. It becomes a vibrational pattern within consciousness, a standing wave that begins to attract corresponding elements. This is the ancient law of correspondence, as within, so without. What is established in the inner world draws its likeness from the outer world, not through magic, but through the fundamental nature of consciousness itself. Reality responds to inner orientation, the way iron filings respond to a magnet. There is no gap, no delay in the metaphysical realm, only in the time it takes for form to condense. Contemplation is the act of holding an image, an idea, or a feeling in the mind's eye, with clarity and duration. It is not forced concentration, but sustained presence with a particular object of awareness. And when this contemplation is repeated day after day, it creates what the ancients called an inner pattern or archetypal form. This pattern becomes magnetic. It begins to organize the subtle movements of consciousness, drawing experiences, opportunities, and circumstances that match its frequency. This is why what you contemplate in solitude eventually appears in your life. Not because you wished for it, but because you made it the center of your inner world. You built around it, you oriented toward it. And in doing so, you magnetized it. The question then is not, what do I want? But, what do I consistently contemplate? For that is what you are becoming. That is what you are building. That is what you are drawing into form. The third principle concerns the transformation of contemplation into directed force. When a pattern is sufficiently magnetized within, it naturally gives rise to desire. But desire here is not craving, it is orientation. It is the pull of the inner world toward alignment with what it has consecrated. Desire, when sustained and clarified through contemplation, becomes will. Will is not effort or strain. It is the coherent movement of consciousness in a single direction. It is the inner world organizing itself around a central axis, eliminating contradiction, dissolving resistance. Where desire says, I am drawn toward this, will says, I am moving as this. This is the shift from passive longing to active embodiment. The contemplated object is no longer separate from the contemplator. It has been integrated. It has become the organizing principle of inner orientation. And when the inner world is thus organized, the outer world must reflect it. This is not belief, this is law. The Hermetic texts speak of the adept as one who has aligned inner and outer, who has made thought and action continuous, who moves through the world as a unified force. This unity is achieved not through conquest of the external, but through the ordering of the internal. When contemplation is clear, desire becomes will. When will is sustained, action becomes inevitable. And action, repeated and aligned, crystallizes into structure. Most fail here because their desire remains fragmented. They want one thing, but contemplate another. They speak of abundance, but dwell in scarcity. They claim to seek peace, but consecrate conflict through repeated attention. There is no alignment, no coherence, and so there is no manifestation. The inner world remains divided, and the outer world reflects that division perfectly. The fourth and final principle is the most visible, the condensation of will into lived form. This is the stage where the invisible becomes visible, where inner structure takes on outer shape. But understand, this is not the beginning of the process. It is the end. By the time something appears in physical reality, it has already passed through every prior stage. It was first contemplated, then magnetized, then willed, and only finally does it solidify into form. This is why attempting to change reality at the level of form alone is futile. You cannot alter the fruit by manipulating the fruit. You must return to the root. The root is contemplation. The root is the orientation of attention. Change begins there, or it does not begin at all. The visible world is slow. It moves like stone, like earth. But the inner world moves like wind, like flame. A single shift in contemplation can reorganize the entire inner landscape in moments. And once reorganized within, the without must follow, though it may take time for the density of matter to catch up with the speed of mind. The ancients called this principle precipitation. What is held in the subtle realm precipitates into the dense realm. What is established in spirit descends into matter, not through violation of natural law, but through perfect obedience to it. For natural law is not merely physical, it is metaphysical. And the highest law is this: consciousness is causative, mind is primary. All form is thought made visible. When you grasp this, you understand that you have never been powerless. You have only been unconscious. You have been shaping reality all along, but without awareness, without intention. You have been a sculptor working in the dark, unaware of what your hands are creating. Here lies the great danger and the great responsibility. Most people, upon learning this principle, immediately attempt to manipulate it. They try to force contemplation of desired outcomes while their true attention remains elsewhere. They affirm abundance while inwardly dwelling on lack. They visualize success while secretly expecting failure. This creates only confusion, only static. The mind cannot be deceived. It knows what you truly contemplate, regardless of what you claim to contemplate. Your lived reality will always reflect your authentic inner orientation, not your aspirational one. This is why affirmations often fail. This is why visualization without genuine contemplation produces nothing. The inner world recognizes pretense and ignores it. Worse still, many consecrate the very patterns they wish to escape. They give sustained attention to what they fear, what they resent, what they believe limits them. They think about their problems more than their possibilities. They contemplate their wounds more than their wholeness. And so their wounds become internal law, and internal law becomes lived experience. The path is not to fight unwanted thoughts, but to starve them of attention. To redirect contemplation, patiently and persistently, toward that which you wish to align with, not once, not occasionally, but as a sustained practice. This is the work. This is the discipline the ancients spoke of. Not the discipline of the body, but the discipline of attention. You are not a victim of reality. You are its architect. Every moment of sustained attention is an act of creation. Every pattern you contemplate becomes a blueprint. Every inner orientation seeks outer correspondence. The question is not whether you are creating reality. You are, constantly, inevitably. The question is whether you are creating consciously or unconsciously, whether you are building by design or by default. Reality begins where attention rests. It forms around what consciousness consecrates, and what you behold with constancy, you become. This is not philosophy, this is structure, this is law, and the law is absolute.